ever order something online, like
Mm-hmm.
based on like rave reviews,
Yes.
only to find out it's
Yeah.
like a total dud.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe you've been
You got this all the time.
swayed by a
Yeah.
friend's passionate argument about something,
Sure.
and then later you realize
Yeah.
their facts were a little flimsy.
Yeah. Flimsy.
I think we encounter deception every day
I think so.
in ways both big and small.
Yeah.
And today
Uh-huh.
we're going to explore how it shapes our world.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
it's not just about outright lies, right?
Yeah.
It's about
the subtle ways.
It's about all the subtle ways our perceptions are molded,
Exactly.
often without us even realizing it.
Absolutely. That's right. So, it's fascinating how
Right.
we often just operate under this assumption that seeing is believing.
Right.
And we tend to think our perception directly reflects reality,
Uh-huh.
but that's not always the case. Oh, interesting.
Our minds are constantly filtering information, shaping it based on our past experiences, our beliefs, even our unconscious biases.
Okay. So, we all have those moments where we misinterpret a text message or,
Yeah,
jump to conclusions that turn out to be totally wrong.
sure.
But how much of that is just human error versus, something more deliberate?
Right.
Is it possible someone could be intentionally manipulating our perceptions?
Absolutely. Think of it this way. Our brains are wired to seek patterns and make sense of the world.
Right.
But that same process can be exploited.
Oh, wow.
There are hundreds of cognitive biases, these mental shortcuts our brains take,
Right.
that can lead us to perceive things in a way that deviates from objective reality.
Uh-huh.
For example, confirmation bias
Okay.
means we're more likely to believe information that already aligns with our existing beliefs, making us vulnerable to targeted misinformation.
So it's not just about being, gullible or naive.
Right?
It's about how our brains are literally wired.
It's to be susceptible to certain kinds of manipulation.
That's right.
That's kind of unsettling.
It is. It is.
How can we even know if what we're perceiving is accurate?
That's the challenge.
Yeah.
And it's especially relevant in today's world where we're bombarded with information from all directions.
Right.
It's crucial to develop a healthy skepticism, to question our assumptions,
Yeah.
to actively seek out diverse perspectives.
Okay.
If we don't, we risk becoming trapped in echo chambers,
Right.
surrounded by information that simply reinforces our existing biases.
Which might explain some of the polarization we see in society today.
Exactly.
If everyone's stuck in their own perception bubble, it's no wonder we're having trouble finding common ground.
Absolutely.
So if our minds are so vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
how do we protect ourselves?
Right.
Are we all just sitting ducks for master manipulators?
Well, the good news is that understanding how manipulation works is the first step to defending against it. We have this natural tendency called truth bias.
Truth bias.
Meaning, we instinctively assume others are being truthful. It's essential for social cooperation.
Right.
But manipulators can exploit this.
Okay.
They know that we're more likely to believe someone who seems confident and trustworthy, even if what they're saying is completely false.
Especially online, where it's easy to create fake personas and hide behind anonymous profiles.
Absolutely.
Like the Wild West of information out there.
Yeah.
How do we sort through all the noise and figure out what's real?
Social media has amplified this challenge.
Okay.
Because algorithms Fake accounts and bot activity can create a distorted view of reality.
Yeah.
Something goes viral, and suddenly everyone believes it, regardless of its validity.
Right.
And because we're constantly bombarded with information online, it's easy to fall into the trap of simply accepting what we see without questioning it.
So it's not about becoming paranoid or distrusting everyone we encounter.
Right.
It's about developing that critical eye, that inner BS detector.
Yeah.
That helps us sort through the information overload.
And that's where understanding some of the tactics used in dark psychology can be surprisingly helpful.
Okay.
These aren't just techniques used by villains in movies, they're very real and often employed in everyday life, sometimes even unconsciously.
Okay, dark psychology. That sounds intense.
It is.
What are some examples of these tactics?
Well, it's not always about outright lying.
Okay,
Think of gaslighting, where someone makes you question your own sanity.
gaslighting. Okay.
They might deny things you know happened,
Yay.
making you wonder if you're the one misremembering.
Oh, wow.
Or love bombing,
Love bombing.
where someone showers you with affection to gain your trust, only to use it against you later.
Or guilt tripping.
Yes.
That's a classic manipulation tactic I think we've all experienced at some point.
Right. And these tactics can show up in any area of life. Relationships, workplaces, even just casual social interactions.
So how do we protect ourselves from these dark psychology ninjas?
That's a good question.
What are some red flags to look out for?
Pay close attention to inconsistencies between someone's words and actions. If they're saying one thing but doing another, that's a major warning sign.
Okay.
Also, be wary of anyone who tries to isolate you from your support system
Right.
or constantly puts you down to undermine your confidence.
It's all about trusting your gut instinct too, right?
Absolutely.
If something feels off, it probably is.
Exactly. And remember, recognizing these tactics is the first step to disarming them. Knowledge is power.
Right.
And once you understand how manipulation works, you're less likely to fall prey to it.
Okay, so we've talked about how our minds can be tricked. And
Yes.
some of the, sneaky tactics used in manipulation.
Right.
But let's, zoom in on the digital world. It seems like the online space just amplifies the potential for deception. Is that right?
Absolutely. The online world presents unique challenges when it comes to deception. It's easier to hide behind fake profiles, manipulate information, and reach vast audiences with minimal effort. And with the constant evolution of technology, it's becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish between what's real and what's not.
It's like the Wild West out there. But instead of cowboys and outlaws, we have bots, deepfakes, and scammers galore.
That's right.
It can feel overwhelming to even think about. How are we supposed to navigate this digital minefield?
Well, awareness is key.
Yeah,
The more you understand the potential for deception and the tactics being used,
right.
the better equipped you are to protect yourself. One of the most significant challenges is the rise of AI-generated content like deepfakes,
Deepfakes.
where you can make anyone appear to say or do anything.
Wow.
This technology is becoming increasingly sophisticated, making it harder to distinguish real content from fabricated content.
So how do we know what to believe anymore?
Right.
If we can't even trust our own eyes and ears, what can we rely on?
Remember that critical thinking is your most powerful tool.
Okay.
Question everything, verify information from multiple sources,
Right.
and be wary of anything that seems too good to be true.
Okay, so we've talked about how technology is making it, easier to create
Right.
convincing deceptions.
Yeah.
But what about the, human element?
Uh-huh.
I mean, even with all the fancy tech, scammers still need to understand
Absolutely.
how to exploit our vulnerabilities.
Absolutely. While technology provides the tools, it's the understanding of human psychology that makes these scams effective.
Okay.
Scammers are masters of persuasion,
Right.
using a variety of tactics to bypass our rational thinking
Okay.
and trigger emotional responses that make us more susceptible to their tricks.
So even in this digital age, it still comes down to, like, good old-fashioned human manipulation.
In many ways, yes. Think about those limited time offer sales you see everywhere online.
Oh, yeah.
They create a sense of urgency,
Right.
making you feel like you have to act now or miss out on a great deal.
Ugh, yes.
This taps into our fear of missing out,
Oh, yeah.
a powerful psychological motivator.
I'm totally guilty of falling for that one.
Sure.
I've made some impulse purchases I probably wouldn't have if I'd just taken a moment to think it through.
And then there's the classic too good to be true offer. We all love a bargain.
Right.
But if something seems ridiculously cheap, it's likely a scam. Scammers know that our desire to save money can override our common sense.
Right. Like those ads for designer handbags or electronics selling for pennies on the dollar.
Exactly.
It's tempting, but deep down you know it's probably a fake.
Exactly. Scammers are also adept at playing on our emotions. They might use stories of hardship
Right.
or appeal to our desire to help others, hoping to trigger a compassionate response
Oh, okay.
that makes us more willing to part with our money or information.
It's like those crowdfunding campaigns for fake charities, or those emails from Nigerian princes needing help transferring their fortune.
Precisely.
They tug at your heartstrings, hoping you won't think too critically about the details.
They know that when we're feeling strong emotions, fear, excitement, even compassion, we're more likely to let our guard down. And that's when we're most vulnerable to manipulation.
Okay, so recognizing these psychological tactics is crucial,
Absolutely.
but it can feel overwhelming to try to stay ahead of all the scams out there. What are some, practical steps we can take to protect ourselves?
It starts with awareness.
Okay,
The more you understand about deception, how it works, and the tactics used,
right,
the better equipped you are to spot it and avoid it.
yeah,
Be cautious about the information you share online,
okay.
especially personal details that could be used to target you.
So being mindful of our digital footprint is essential.
Absolutely. Be wary of unsolicited offers that come through email, social media, or even text messages. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Right,
And always verify information from multiple sources before taking any action, especially if it involves financial transactions or sharing sensitive data.
that's great advice. But where can we go to, verify information? Are there specific resources you recommend?
Absolutely. There are some great websites dedicated to fact-checking and debunking misinformation.
Yeah,
Sites like Snopes, factcheck.org, and PolitiFact
okay.
investigate viral claims and provide evidence-based analysis to help you separate fact from fiction.
Those are excellent resources. I use them all the time to double-check information before I share it online. Are there any organizations that focus on, consumer protection?
The Federal Trade Commission, or
Okay,
FTC, is a
yeah.
great resource.
Okay.
They have a website and a hotline where you can report scams and get information on how to protect yourself from fraud and identity theft.
The FTC is definitely a valuable resource. What about organizations specifically dedicated to combating, online deception? Are there any groups working to, expose scams and hold scammers accountable?
Yes, the Better Business Bureau,
Okay.
or BBB,
The Better Business Bureau, okay.
is a well-known organization that helps consumers identify trustworthy businesses and avoid scams. They have a scam tracker tool
Yeah,
where you can report and learn about recent scams in your area.
that's a great resource for checking out businesses before you, engage with them. Are there any resources specifically focused on, digital threats and cybersecurity?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a whole other level of complexity.
You're right, cybersecurity is a vast and ever-changing landscape.
Right.
The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA,
Okay.
is a government agency that provides guidance and resources on cybersecurity best practices. They have tips on protecting yourself from phishing attacks, malware, and other online threats.
Wow, those are all fantastic resources. I encourage our listeners to check them out and bookmark them for future reference. It sounds like staying informed is key to navigating this digital world safely.
Exactly. Knowledge is power. The more you understand the methods and motivations behind deception, the better equipped you are to defend yourself.
Okay, so we've talked about counter deception tactics and valuable resources. But let zoom out for a moment.
Sure.
What are the broader impacts of deception on society as a whole?
Right.
How does it affect our trust in each other, our institutions,
Absolutely.
and our ability to function as a cohesive society?
That's a crucial question. Deception erodes trust, and trust is the foundation of any healthy society.
Okay.
When we can't trust each other, our institutions crumble, our relationships suffer,
Right.
and it becomes difficult to function as a cohesive society.
Right.
It can lead to a sense of paranoia and cynicism where everyone is questioning everyone else's motives.
That sounds pretty bleak.
It is.
It's like a virus that spreads, infecting every aspect of our lives.
Yeah.
We become more suspicious, more guarded, and less willing to cooperate.
Exactly. And this erosion of trust can have serious consequences. It can fuel political polarization,
Right.
undermine our democratic processes,
Right.
and make it difficult to address collective challenges like climate change or economic inequality.
Because if we can't agree on basic facts or trust the information we're receiving, how can we work together to solve complex problems? It feels like deception creates a climate of fear and uncertainty that makes it hard to even know where to begin.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And that climate of fear can be exploited by those in power to manipulate and control us.
Right.
When we're constantly bombarded with misinformation and conflicting narratives,
Right.
it's easy to feel overwhelmed and disengaged from civic life.
So what can we do to, rebuild trust in a world where deception is so pervasive?
Right.
It seems like a daunting task.
It is daunting, but not impossible. It starts with individual actions.
Okay.
We can choose to be honest in our interactions, to be transparent in our dealings, and to hold ourselves and others accountable for spreading misinformation.
So, leading by example, setting a higher standard for ourselves and those around us. It's about creating a culture of honesty and integrity, even when it's difficult.
Precisely. And it also involves supporting institutions and organizations that promote transparency, accountability, and ethical behavior. We need to hold our leaders, our businesses, and our media accountable for spreading truth and combating deception.
We can't just be passive consumers of information. We have to be active participants in shaping a more truthful and trustworthy world. But where do we even start?
Start by having conversations like this one.
Sure.
Talking about deception, raising awareness, and sharing resources are all important steps in the right direction. It's about creating a collective awareness that deception is a problem we need to address together.
Okay, so we've covered, like, a lot of ground talking about how deception works, how it's amplified online, and, like, the impact it has on society. But it feels like there's, like, a whole other layer to this.
Yeah.
The ethics of it all.
Right. You're absolutely right. Deception is rarely a simple black and white issue. It exists on a spectrum, and the ethical implications really depend heavily on the context, the intentions, and the potential consequences.
Because sometimes, like, little white lies, they're almost like necessary for social harmony. Right? Like, telling a friend you love their new haircut, even if you secretly think it's a disaster.
Sure.
But where do we, like, draw the line?
Right.
When does a harmless fib, like, cross over into something more problematic?
That's where it gets tricky.
Yeah.
There are situations where deception might be considered justifiable, like in self-defense or to protect someone from harm.
Right, like if you're hiding someone from an abuser you might lie to, like protect their location.
Yeah.
In those cases, the intention behind the deception feels like really important.
Absolutely.
But even then, it's a tough call.
Exactly. Intent plays a crucial role in ethical considerations.
Right.
But even with good intentions, deception can have unintended consequences. It can erode trust, create confusion, and even lead to harm down the line.
Right.
So it's important to weigh the potential benefits against the potential harms very carefully.
It's like a moral balancing act for sure.
It is.
But are there any, like, frameworks or guidelines that can help us, like, make those tough calls?
Yeah.
How do we even, like, begin to think about the ethics of deception in a systematic way?
Well, philosophers have been grappling with these questions for centuries.
Right.
One approach is utilitarianism, which focuses on maximizing overall happiness and minimizing harm. In this view, deception might be justifiable if it leads to a greater good, even if it means bending the truth.
So it's kind of like a cost-benefit analysis.
Right.
You're looking at the potential outcomes and choosing the path that leads to, like, the least harm or the most benefit, even if it involves a bit of deception.
Exactly. But utilitarianism has its critics.
Okay.
Some argue that it's too focused on outcomes and doesn't give enough weight to individual rights and principles.
Yeah. Right, because even if a deception, like, leads to a positive outcome for the majority,
right,
it might still violate someone's autonomy or their right to know the truth.
Exactly.
Are there other frameworks that, like, take those factors into account?
There's deontology.
Deontology, okay.
Which focuses on moral duties and principles, regardless of the consequences. In this view, deception would generally be considered wrong because it violates the duty to be truthful.
Okay.
It's about sticking to your principles even if it might lead to a less desirable outcome in a particular situation.
So it's about, like, doing what's right.
Right?
Even if it's hard.
Yes.
Even if it might not lead to the best outcome in a strictly utilitarian sense.
Exactly.
It's about upholding those, like, core values of honesty and integrity.
Exactly. But of course, even deontology presents challenges.
Right.
What happens when moral duties conflict?
Right.
What if lying is the only way to save someone's life? These ethical dilemmas really highlight how complex this issue can be.
It's like there's no easy answer. No one-size-fits-all solution. Each situation requires careful consideration.
Yes.
Critical thinking, and a willingness to, like, wrestle with those gray areas.
I think that's a great point. And it's also important to remember that ethics are constantly evolving. What might have been considered acceptable deception in the past might not be viewed the same way today.
Right, like those old school marketing tactics that exaggerated product claims
Right.
or use subliminal messaging. Today we have stricter regulations and a more informed consumer base.
Yeah,
So those tactics are less likely to fly.
exactly. As our understanding of psychology, technology, and morality evolves, so too do our ethical guidelines. It's an ongoing conversation, and it requires us to be constantly reflecting and reevaluating our beliefs.
So we've talked about ethical considerations in the present day.
Yes.
But let's step back in time for a moment.
Here.
How has deception been used throughout history? Are there any historical examples that illustrate its enduring power and its potential for both good and evil?
Oh, absolutely. Deception has been woven into the fabric of human history from the very beginning.
Wow.
We see it in ancient myths and legends, in military strategies, in political maneuvering, in everyday social interactions. It's a tool that can be wielded for both noble and nefarious purposes.
Give us some examples. I bet our listeners would love to hear about some of the most cunning and audacious deceptions of the past.
Well, a classic example is the Trojan horse.
Oh, yeah.
A tale of deception from Greek mythology.
Right.
The Greeks, unable to conquer the city of Troy through force, devised a clever plan.
Okay.
They built a giant wooden horse, presented it as a gift to the Trojans, and secretly hid soldiers inside.
Oh, I remember that story. The Trojans, believing the horse to be a symbol of peace,
Right.
brought it inside their city walls.
Yes.
And, well, we all know how that turned out.
Right. At night, the Greek soldiers emerged from the horse, opened the city gates, and Troy was conquered.
Wow.
It's a story that highlights the power of deception to overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles.
It's also a cautionary tale about the importance of, skepticism and critical thinking.
Absolutely.
Don't just accept things at face value.
Exactly. Another fascinating example is from World War II with the Enigma machine,
Okay.
a German encryption device that the Germans believed to be unbreakable. But a team of brilliant code breakers at Bletchley Park, including Alan Turing, cracked the Enigma code,
Okay.
giving the Allies a crucial advantage in the war.
That's incredible. It's a reminder that the ability to, decipher secret communications can have a profound impact on the course of history.
Absolutely. And that brings us to a really interesting point. The history of deception is also a history of counter-deception. For every clever deception, there's been an effort to detect and expose it.
Oh, wow.
It's an ongoing arms race between those who seek to deceive and those who seek to uncover the truth.
It's like a constant back and forth, a battle of wits that's been playing out for centuries. And now with technology evolving at such a rapid pace, it feels like that arms race is only intensifying.
You're right. As technology advances, so too do the methods of deception and the tools for counter-deception.
Right.
AI, virtual reality, augmented reality.
Right.
These technologies are creating new possibilities for deception,
Wow.
but they're also providing us with new ways to detect and combat it.
So it's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Technology can be used to deceive,
Yes.
but it can also be used to, expose deception.
Absolutely.
It all comes down to how we choose to wield it.
Exactly. And that brings us to an important question. What does the future hold for deception?
Right.
How will it evolve as technology continues to advance?
I can already imagine the headlines. AI-powered deepfakes cause global chaos, or virtual reality scams trick millions. It feels like we're entering a new era of deception,
Yeah.
one that's even more challenging to navigate.
There's definitely a potential for that.
Yeah.
AI, virtual reality, augmented reality. These technologies have the power to create incredibly realistic and immersive deceptions. Imagine a world where you can't even trust your own senses. It's both fascinating and a little bit terrifying.
It's like something out of a science fiction movie. But hopefully we'll also see, advancements in counter-deception technologies, maybe. Like AI-powered systems that can detect deepfakes.
Right.
Or virtual reality simulations that train us to identify and resist manipulation.
I think that's a very real possibility. The key is to ensure that the development of counter-deception technologies keeps pace with the advancements in deception technologies.
Okay.
It's about staying ahead of the curve and anticipating the challenges that lie ahead.
So in a way, the future of deception is, up to us.
It is.
Depends on the choices we make, the technologies we develop, and the values we prioritize. It's a collective responsibility to, shape a future where truth and authenticity are valued and protected.
I couldn't agree more. By raising awareness, promoting ethical behavior, and investing in counter-deception research and development, we can create a future where deception is less prevalent and less harmful. It's about creating a culture of vigilance, where we're all empowered to be critical thinkers and discerning consumers of information.
Well said. It's been an incredible journey exploring this, multifaceted world of deception, from its psychological underpinnings to its ethical dilemmas, its impact on society, its historical roots, and, its potential future. But most importantly, we've aimed to equip you, our listener, with the knowledge and tools to navigate this complex landscape. Remember, deception is everywhere, but so is the power to resist it. If you want to keep exploring this topic, we highly recommend checking out the song Lies to Me by 5440. It's a catchy way to keep thinking about the themes we've discussed today. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and never stop questioning.